Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that subscribe button. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow, and I really do appreciate it more than you know. So click that subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for. I want to go ahead and talk a little bit of college football because there was an interesting story that has emerged really over the last 2 or 3 days. I'm a little bit late getting to it. Forgive me, but I think it's worth discussing. And it does involve a place that has had quite a few headlines over the last couple weeks, most of them positive, but certainly headlines nonetheless. That is Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and the Alabama football program. Obviously, been a busy couple weeks in Tuscaloosa, right? Nick Saban retires. We go through an abbreviated coaching search in which Kalen Deboer is the hire just a few days later. From there, a couple Bama players, end up hitting the portal. But then, of course, Washington, Kalen Deboer brings in a couple of his star players from Washington as well. So you thought after all the chaos of the first couple weeks, things were slowly going to start quieting down in Tuscaloosa. Just one problem. As the college football coaching carousel came to an end, the NFL coaching carousel itself, so the NFL coaching carousel just picked up. And late last week, I think it was Thursday into Friday, didn't have time on Friday or Saturday to react to this, but we got word that Ryan Grubb, Kalen Deboer's right-hand man through all the wars at Sioux Falls and Fresno State and Washington, is going to, or the plan is for him to interview for an NFL offensive coordinator job with the Seattle Seahawks. And I think it's at least worth discussing how concerned Bama fans should be. Now, to be clear, I'm recording here late Sunday, so by the time you listen, something may have happened to this. But as I record, Ryan Grubb is being courted by the NFL, and I've had a few Alabama fans ask me, how worried should I be? Well, to be blunt, I'm just going to be honest. It's obviously not ideal. You never want to lose smart people from any operation, but on a scale of 1 to 10, if I was a Bama fan, I would not be that worried. And in a term that our Torres on Bama Twitter account coined, make sure to follow Torres on Bama, by the way, on Twitter. Don't doubt Deboer. If Kalen Deboer says it's not a big, my bottom line is this. Ryan Grubb, as we record, is interviewing, but am I nervous? No, because I don't doubt Deboer. Now, why am I not nervous if I'm a Bama fan? Let me explain. I'll share my thoughts. One, first of all, it is worth noting. We don't know if Ryan Grubb is actually going to take the job. Now, again, by the time you listen to this, maybe that has changed. But I'm not totally sold that he's going to take the job. First off, we've all interviewed for something in life. A job, I guess dating is sort of an interview, right? Not everybody's the right fit for everything every time. And just because Ryan Grubb is interviewing doesn't mean he's going to accept the job. And just because he's interviewing doesn't mean he's going to be offered the job. So that is worth noting. And by the way, Alabama fans, you know this. Ryan Grubb has a history of going through the interview process, weighing the pros and cons, thinking about everything. Am I going to take it? Am I not going to take it? And ultimately sticking with Deboer. You know how I know that? Because it literally happened a year ago. Alabama was looking for a new offensive coordinator to replace Bill O'Brien. And who did they go after? They went after Ryan Grubb. And he decided that he wanted to stay with Washington and Kalen Deboer because he believed there were big things ahead for Deboer and that Washington program. He was clearly correct in that assessment. Now, in terms of this time around, listen, I'm not going to pretend to sit here and lie and say that I know Ryan Grubb, and I don't know what his ambitions are. Very publicly, he did want that Washington job. Thought it was interesting when they moved off of him and decided to go another direction. He said in that statement, thank you, Washington fans. I wanted this job. I wanted to be the guy to replace Coach Deboer, keep this thing together. So it's clear he wants to be a college head coach. And I guess the question becomes, does he want some NFL experience along the way? Is his ambition to be a college head coach? Because if it is, best thing to do, stay with Kalen Deboer. Win a bunch of games next year at Alabama, and you're going to have those offers continue to roll in for you. But if you feel like, one, you need to get out of Kalen Deboer's shadow, then this is an interesting opportunity. And two, in what has become a very public conversation these last couple of days, if you don't see your pathway being college football, and I say that because obviously, look, as I record here, Chip Kelly is interviewing for offensive coordinator jobs. Boston College's head coach just took a defensive coordinator job in the NFL. So like if you don't want to be a part of college football going forward, then this makes sense. But every piece of news that we have, every piece of information indicates to me that Ryan Grubb wants to be in college football and his ambitions are to one day be a major college head coach. Well, if that's the case, best place to probably be is alongside Kalen Deboer. The question becomes, though, if Ryan Grubb does move on, and I'm not sold that he will, should I be concerned if I'm a Bama fan? And the answer is no. And there's a couple of reasons why when I look at it from the holistic 30,000-foot view picture. One, listen, Ryan Grubb deserves a ton of credit, okay? A ton of credit. And in a lot of ways, you know what it kind of reminds me of? The relationship between Nick Saban and Kirby Smart for all of those years. Nick Saban's a genius. Nick Saban's a god. Nick Saban's the best college football coach that ever lived. But we also can't deny that he had really smart people around him. And the guy that kind of was with him for a big chunk of that Alabama dynasty was Kirby Smart, who to his credit has gone on to be a successful head coach, to say the least. 2 national championships, #1 team in the country most of this year. But the point I'm trying to make is that, one, I get that Grubb and Deboer have been kind of hand in hand dating back to the Sioux Falls days, then to Eastern Michigan, and they did work together at Fresno State. But I also think it's worth noting, how did Kalen Deboer get his first head coaching job altogether? It is because for 1 year, he was not working with Ryan Grubb. He went to Indiana, where he coached a guy by the name of Michael Penix Jr. at quarterback. That offense blew up, and Kalen Deboer then got the Fresno State head coaching job. And so it's like, I don't want to diminish the role that Ryan Grubb played. That's not what I'm trying to do at all. By all accounts, an amazing, amazing offensive mind and incredible. They work really well together, he and Deboer. But at the same time, Deboer only got his first head coaching job after stepping away from Ryan Grubb at Indiana, running the offense. And my guess is he could do it again if he needs to. Not saying he would call plays, don't know what the hiring process would be. Would he hire somebody else internally? Would he hire somebody externally? But at the end of the day, it's no different than what I just said. Remember when Kirby Smart was the defensive coordinator, but everybody knew he was calling or Nick Saban's defense. Whoever's the defensive coordinator at Georgia, Glenn Schumann right now, he's calling Kirby Smart's defense just like Dan Lanning called his defense before. By the way, Brent Venables, Oklahoma, defensive mind. Yes, there's a defensive coordinator, but Brent Venables has his fingerprints on things. Same with, in a negative way, by the way, Jimbo Fisher, right? I know I'm talking fast here. Sorry, I got a lot of information moving around in my head. But the bottom line is, look at college football. Coaches have, in general, an area of expertise. And yes, they might not be the coordinator, but in general, the coordinator is calling the game that the coach wants. Think about a different example. Ryan Day just hired Bill O'Brien as the as the offensive coordinator at Ohio State. And people made fun of it. Oh, he was a disaster at Alabama, and he wasn't a good coordinator despite what the numbers would tell you. But at the end of the day, he's going to be calling Ryan Day's offense. And if Ryan Day doesn't like it, guess what he's going to do? He's going to take back the offense. And so Deboer is obviously capable of handling this offense on his own. And beyond that, let me also add a couple more things. One, I do think it's important to note with Deboer. The thing that stands out to me, that has impressed me the most watching him from a distance at Washington and even a little bit before Fresno State. I said this about his Washington team this year. I didn't see a team in college football that was better at adjusting what they did on a week-to-week basis to your weaknesses than Washington was this year. It's a very NFL model. Is what worked last week, throw it out the window, toss it to the side, because guess what? It ain't going to work this week. You're playing Tennessee that wants to throw the ball vertically 40 yards downfield, and then the next week you're playing Georgia that wants to punch you in the mouth. So you have to adjust accordingly, and that is what Deboer and his staff did better than anybody. Why am I bringing it up as it pertains to Ryan Grubb? It's because Deboer has shown an incredible ability not only to pivot prior to games and during games, but also to identify problems and find quick solutions. What did I say to lead this segment? There was a moment in time where everybody's freaking out about the transfer portal. And what does Kalen Deboer do? Keeps things calm. Everything's going to be okay. Alabama did ultimately lose basically one player that wasn't going to leave. Like Caden Proctor was probably going to leave, whether Nick Saban retired or not. Isaiah Bond was probably going to leave, whether Nick Saban retired or not. Caleb Downs was the only guy that Kalen Deboer really lost that probably would have stayed. Now, it's a huge loss nonetheless. But I only bring it up to very simply say, guess what? Kalen Deboer stays calm. He adjusts. He brings in 3 or 4 or 5 difference makers from Washington, the all-conference offensive lineman, the kid Austin Mack that everybody thinks is going to be a star quarterback, Jeremy Bernard, the wide receiver. So he adjusts on the fly. By the way, what was the other thing that everyone criticized with Kalen Deboer early in the process? Oh, he's not a recruiter. How will he be able to recruit the Southeast? And then what happened? Brought Courtney Morgan with him, one of the elite personnel people in college football. And as we discussed on this YouTube channel a few days ago, also hired Aaron Hodges, another guy that everybody believes to be one of the elite personnel people in college football. Everywhere he goes, they sign their best recruiting class ever. Started at Ohio State, goes to Purdue. They sign their best recruiting class ever. And on top of that, goes to TCU, and they build a national title contender in one offseason. So I bring it up to very simply say we will see what happens with Ryan Grubb. I know I said it earlier. Something may have become official by the time you listen, but whether it does or not, whatever happens, I am not worried about Kalen Deboer in Alabama. As I said, don't doubt Deboer. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe to the Aaron Torres Pod YouTube channel. New clips, new videos going up all the time. Make sure to subscribe. We'll be back soon talking more college football, college basketball,